All right. Well, the New York Times yesterday began publishing that series of reports that examine 20 years worth of the president's tax returns, revealing financial losses in the millions and an audit battle over a tax refund and payment of almost no federal income tax. The Times reports that for 2016 and again in 2017, President Trump paid $750 in federal income tax. Let me repeat that, $750. But for 10 of the previous 15 years, he paid zero, nothing at all, because he reported losses that eliminated his tax liability. The paper does not have records for 2018 and 2019. Now, according to the Times, ultimately, Mr. Trump has been more successful playing a business mogul than being one in real life. The Apprentice, along with the licensing and endorsement deals that flowed from his expanding celebrity, brought Mr. Trump a total of more than $427 million. It's a lot of money. He invested much of that in a collection of businesses, mostly golf courses, that in the years since have steadily devoured cash. Also hanging over him is a decade-long audit battle with the Internal Revenue Service over the legitimacy of a $72.9 million tax refund that he claimed and received after declaring huge losses. The president has received more money while in office from foreign interests than previously known, and that hundreds of millions in personally backed loans come due in the near future. How's he going to pay those? While the Times reported that Trump did not pay income taxes for several years, he did pay other forms of federal taxes, including Medicare, Social Security, and the alternative minimum tax. In a statement to NBC News, the Trump Organization lawyer, Alan Garten, claimed that the story was riddled with gross inaccuracies. Over the past decade, the president has paid tens of millions of dollars in personal taxes to the federal government, he said in part. NBC News has not independently verified the documents, but the Times reports it obtained them from sources with legal access to the material. According to the paper, additional reports will be released in the coming weeks.
So again, what you did not hear Donald Trump's lawyer say is that Donald Trump paid millions of dollars in personal income taxes, because he didn't.
And that was a very carefully worded statement that could have meant a lot of things.
Yeah, he paid $750 1 or 2 years, paid zero out of 10 out of like the past 15 years. And again, just lost so much money, probably lost more money over the past 20, 30, 40 years than any other single American. Michael Schmidt, but I'd love the New York Times had said that actually, certainly during the 80s and into the early 90s. I'd love to know if that is still the truth for this time period. But Michael Schmidt, give me your big takeaways from your paper's blockbuster story.
Well, I mean, first of all, the work of my colleagues here is just pretty remarkable. And the Times has invested an enormous amount of money and time itself to go after this, and now going somewhere that we certainly didn't see in the Mueller investigation. We didn't see any in any of these congressional investigations. So really unearthing things here that have been this great mystery for the president. As you guys were laying out, and the Times says this in pretty stark terms, the president at very basic level, not the business person he says he is. Doesn't have the money he says he has, doesn't have the cash on hand that he says he has far more losses, spends a lot of time using those losses to help him in his own taxes. So at a sort of a basic level, sort of the premise of the president coming under assault from these things. The second thing is just the amount of money that he's taken from foreign governments, and that money, whether it came from the Philippines or from Turkey, is greater than the amount of money that he's taken, say, from his salary as president. So taking more money from foreign countries than he's taking from his own country as president. And there's a reason why, in whether it's the counterintelligence world or whether it is just the sort of business ethics world or traditional way that people in the government are supposed to function, that you don't want people in government taking so much money from foreign countries, and sort of the influence that can have on someone. That gets to the third and probably most important part of the story, and that's the vulnerable position the president finds himself in financially. He has this, $70-80 million or so dispute with the IRS about whether he's going to have to pay back this money that he took as a refund from them, a refund that some would say is questionable. And he still has this dispute with the IRS. Remember, he's the president. He can control who's in charge of the IRS. It's not entirely clear to me how that would be resolved, but he could be on the hook for that. And at the same time that he's on the hook for that, he looks like he's on the hook for $400 million in loans that it's not really clear how he would pay those back either. So this entire picture, the president is moving himself as a businessman in towards a very vulnerable place where his own IRS could come calling for a lot of money that he may not have.
Yeah, and Jonathan Lemire, that's obviously what a lot of people have been investigating through the years. Is he perhaps as kind as he is to Vladimir Putin, as deferential as he is to Vladimir Putin, kowtowing in the presence of Vladimir Putin in Helsinki after, for instance, when you asked him the question that you asked him and he bowed and scraped in front of Vladimir Putin? Why is he acting the way he is toward Turkey? Why is he acting the way he is toward the Philippines? We're actually seeing now that, yes, he's getting more money from countries like Turkey and the Philippines than he is from the American people in his salary. But you've been looking at this for years. You've been studying it for years. What's your takeaway from the reporting that you've read over the past 24 hours?
Well, I think Michael hit on a number of the key points, but to zero in on that last one about the idea of the foreign investment, if you will, in President Trump, that is why so many Democrats last night in their initial reaction to this story were framing it as a national security matter, a national security threat. Though the story does not indicate, it says that at least so far, the tax returns don't show any further unknown investment from Russia. Certainly, we are seeing the influence of foreign governments here in terms of the money involved with the president. And is that shaping his foreign policy decisions and performance? That is something that is going to require extraordinary scrutiny for the rest of his time in office. And also the loan, the money that he owes, and the fact that it's coming due, many of them, before what would be the end of his second term, were he to be reelected. That is another matter that is going to require extraordinary diligence to see who does in fact he owe that money. And again, whether foreign or domestic, how does that impact his day-to-day operations in the White House? And then politically, Joe, going back to how we opened this conversation, this changes the idea in how he's perceived among Americans, potentially even some of his supporters. You're right. Some won't care. Some will say we're with the president. Some will believe his explanation. Some will say that, no, this, of course, is, quote, fake news. Some will say, look, he outsmarted the government. He didn't pay taxes. That's my guy. But I think for a lot of others, including those working class voters that he is struggling with, that he needs desperately, in states like Pennsylvania, this is going to hit home and hit home hard and could cost him support at the worst possible time. 2 days before the first general election debate and barely a month out until Election Day, with some voters voting already in early voting.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.